Hello, I'm Bryan Hutcheson, Sheriff of Rockingham County in the City of Harrisonburg, and thank you for joining me for this week's segment of the Rocktown Crime Report on RocktownNow.com. Today's Friday, May the 23rd. What we're going to do today, hopefully you saw our previous segments where we did the motorcycle demo competition. We're back in the office today. Maybe in the future we'll try to get out in the field again, but hope you did enjoy the motorcycle competition. Hats off to Corporal Matthew Glovier for winning that thing. He has the bragging rights that go with that, and it's safe to say he's exercising those rights too. But hope you enjoyed that segment. Today, what we want to do, since we're back in the office, is get caught up on some crime numbers. We're actually going to look at some number of arrests as well as get to our question of the week, which kind of relates to that as well. But let's start off by looking at, kind of as we have done a while back, we want to get caught up on the total number of arrests. And that's the total number of people physically arrested and brought into our facility here in Harrisonburg. Let's look at that for the past 5 weeks. And what you can see, really starting April the 13th, that week through the 19th, there were 99 arrests here locally. The following week was 88. The April 23rd going into May, or 27th rather, going into May was 77. The week of May 4th through the 10th, there were 82. And the fifth week we looked at, taking us right up to the present, is May 11th through the 17th, there were 81 arrests. And so that, for a total for that 5 week period, it was 427 arrests. And if you think of that in terms of when we did that, I guess it was back in March probably, a little bit lower. I think we averaged close, when we looked at it last time, it was about 100 arrests that we had per week. If you run the numbers from the 5 we just looked at, it comes out to about 85 arrests per week over that 5 week period. So that's good to see. I mean, it's a trend that's going down coming into Memorial Day weekend. We'll see where we go from here, but we wanted to give it a good look kind of coming in to this holiday weekend that we have upon us. And at least so far, that trend seems to be a promising one. Also during that period of time, the highest day we had was 21 arrests, and then the lowest day was 6 arrests. So a pretty broad range as far as in numbers there. But again, to see that average go down from the last time we looked at it, that's encouraging, and we're hoping that can continue once we enter full speed into the summer after Memorial Day. So quick look at those numbers, and then it leads right into our question of the week that came in that we want to look at, which are the most common types of calls that the sheriff's office responds to. And so what we want to do, and that's a good question, we're going to summarize that. It is something that we try to keep up to date on our website, which is rcso-va.com. There's a little tab for calls for service, but you can see a little bit more in entirety. But what we wanted to do for this is kind of go, maybe look at a total number as well as touch on just a few different types and the numbers that we had. And this is going to be for the same time period we just looked at for the arrest. So that's going to be April the 13th through May the 17th. That 5 week period we just looked at for arrests. Let's look at our calls and the types of calls that we had. You can see here, and again, this is a select group. Just looking at animal complaints, we had 240. Looking at civil disputes, we responded to 47. There were a total of 111 disorderly conduct. Of those, fortunately only 6 involved weapons, but 111 total disorderly conduct calls that we responded to. 35 ECO TDO service calls that we responded to. Also, their fifth, kind of going down the list of 10 items here we're looking at. Larceny, we had 33 calls that we responded to. We had 216, you can see there, protective order service calls for service. We had 26 scam complaints. So again, what is that, 5 a week? That's still pretty significant. It's not a huge number, but when you look over a 5 week period, that's 5 a week. So a lot of scams still going on. You can see from looking at that. 75 calls for service for suspicious activity, which is a pretty broad categorization. Includes a lot of different things, but we had a significant number of those. We had 41, you can see here, 41 calls for service for trespassing. Trespassing is something, if you look at a couple segments back of the Rocktown Crime Report, where we kind of talked about that law. Somebody had a great question that pertained to that. So if you didn't check that out, go back and take a look at that. and explaining trespassing in a little bit more detail. But for that 5-week period, we had 41 calls for service involving trespassing concerns or problems that we dealt with, and then last but not least of the 10 that we pulled to kind of sample for you, we had 95 welfare checks. And again, that can be a broad range of different things. Just somebody concerned, is somebody all right, and we check on behalf of a loved one or whatever that might be. So that's just a taste of some of the calls that we had in that 5-week period. And now we want to look at just let's take a quick look at the totals. So the totals for that period, we had a total of 3,884 calls for service. And then to a little bit more directly to that question, well, what are the most common? And we kind of, you can see here, we put it, if you put it into 3 main categories: warrant service, 349, extra patrols, which can again be related to the suspicious person type of calls that we've talked about, or just traffic complaint types of things, but extra patrols was 272, and then traffic stops 437. So those are kind of the 3 big ones. If you add them up, you can see looks like 1,058, and then the percentage out of the 3,884 is almost 30, not quite 30%, but there's a big chunk of the calls for service that we have for that period. So hopefully that's a little insight, some of the types of calls we respond to, and then what are the majority of those calls. So that's a taste for that same type of period or time period that we looked at the arrest for. So thank you for that. Remember, if you have questions, anything at all, feel free, get those into the news at rocktownnow.com. We appreciate that, and try to get some topics in of interest to y'all. So we'll love those questions. We're going to continue to do these every other Friday, so we'll be back with you soon. One other thing I wanted to throw in quickly is also check out on rocktownnow.com. They have a tab. If you don't see it, you can go to the left corner, I think, of their website, Rocktown Now, and look up the Rockingham County Lawn Party and Festivals Guide. If you search for that, if you can't see it on there, it's on there. They have a link to that posted on their website. And as we come into Memorial Day, you got a lot. I know there's several good Memorial Day ceremonies going on. I think one in Broadway, one in Grottoes, but also coming into that lawn party and special event season, they have a pretty good listing of what's coming up if you want to plan kind of your summer activities. It's coming upon us. So check that link out and see some of the great community events. We'll be out at a lot of them. So check out those great events we have coming up real soon. And definitely, most importantly, we want you to have a happy, have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Have a safe one. Drive careful and wear that seatbelt and all that. We want you to have a healthy, happy, safe Memorial Day weekend. Thanks for tuning into this segment of the Crime Report. We'll see you next time.